Parents, does your teen seem super foggy these days? Like they used to be super sharp and focused, but now they forget everything, can't even do or finish or start the homework or schoolwork, and now they feel like their brain just doesn't work anymore. And doctors cannot really find anything wrong with their child. So you might be wondering, is this depression? Is this anxiety? Is this burnout? Is this something else? What's going on here? What if I can tell you that thing that your child is experiencing might be something called brain fog? And in this video, I'm going to talk about what brain fog is and then how it happens, and more importantly, what you can do to help your child get cleared of this brain fog. So let's dive in. Hi, my name is Dr. Lee. I'm a pediatric health psychologist, and I help teens with all these mysterious conditions and their parents get their lives back through my online coaching program. But I want to talk about my teen that I worked with. Let's just say his name is Ethan. He was a straight A student, maybe just like your child, before he started experiencing these symptoms of brain fog. And it turns out like he just could not figure out what was going on. And of course, his parents were super worried. Like he couldn't even finish a sentence sometimes without losing his train of thought. And then he was like talking with his parents until he was like, wait, what? Like totally, like super foggy. And then his parents could tell Ethan's face wasn't necessarily clear either. Like the eyes are like a daisy, like they could tell something was not right. And if that is what you're experiencing with your teen as well, stay tuned, because I'm going to tell you what that could be. All right. Now, they thought initially, did Ethan have a concussion or was developing something neurological? And so of course they took him to see a doctor. Pediatrician turned into so many other ER visits and urgent care because it was just not working right. And guess what? Ethan started to feel more and more frustrated because he just could not think straight. And it was not like him being a straight A student with honors and AP classes and all that good stuff waiting for him. However, every time they went to the doctor, everything came back normal. There was nothing wrong. Still, the brain fog was real. Eventually, Ethan was diagnosed with something called Functional Neurological Disorder, short for FND. Now, you might be thinking, my child has a brain fog. What the heck is FND? Well, guess what? FND is a real condition that is usually diagnosed by neurologists or doctors in the ER system. And it is basically an umbrella term to describe this cross-wired communication problem between the brain and the body, even though physiologically the brain and the body is okay and then there's nothing wrong with it. That's why most doctors can't find out what's going on with this brain fog. Now, is FND the only reason why your child is having brain fog? Not necessarily, but I'm going to tell you the mechanism of how brain fog happens. So I was working with Ethan, and he knew, and his parents knew, that he actually had an FND diagnosis, and then one of the symptoms of FND was a brain fog. And basically, I taught Ethan and his parents because they didn't get any education about FND, let alone brain fog, and how it's happening and why it's happening and all that jazz. So I taught him what was going on with his brain and the body. Like essentially, this is how I explained. Brain fog in FND is basically kind of like the brain's way of protecting itself when his autonomic nervous system is all out of sync. So autonomic nervous system has a sort of like two arms within the body. It's the sympathetic nervous system, which is a fight or flight, and then parasympathetic nervous system, which is like rest and digest. So basically, this is where people feel very hypervigilant and then anxious, and a lot of this like high strung on edge, which is a fight or flight, or feeling very relaxed and digesting and resting. But if you have too much of the parasympathetic nervous system, then you go into the frozen. Brain fog can be anywhere in between, but usually it's a result of the nervous system being out of whack, like from fight or flight to frozen one too many times, and the brain feels like really tired. So his brain wasn't necessarily broken, it was just overwhelmed because all of the brain and the body miscommunication was happening. So he worked on doing the right thing with the right mindset. And this is exactly what I teach in my online coaching program, Teen FND Academy. And now, if your child continues to have this brain fog, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and a like, because this is going to be helpful resource for you. So keep watching. So basically, I taught Ethan that him and his parents really needed to know that there is no quick fix when it comes to brain fog. Like any fog in the air is not going to clear in a second, right? It might clear up fairly quickly, but it's never going to be like in 1 second kind of thing. That being said, Ethan basically learned how to slowly use the autonomic nervous system regulation strategies. Remember, it's not just about relaxing from the fight or flight, because if you do too much of that, then it goes into this frozen thing. That's why you kind of need to have this relaxing and then also uplifting strategies to help him re-regulate the autonomic nervous system. Now, mind you, as long as you're alive, which is what I told to Ethan as well, he's not going to be able to stay in this middle ground forever. Okay, so it's going to be always going kind of up and down, up and down. But he can also learn, if he goes up, he can learn how to turn it back down. And if he starts to go down, he can turn it back up a little bit. So then he is able to adjust this autonomic nervous system much, much better, like he owns it, right? So that's the whole thing about regaining the control of the brain and the body system by learning these skills and strategies with the right mindset. So what did Ethan do? Well, there's so many different autonomic nervous system regulation strategies, but things that were easy for him was just slowing down his breathing, not really deep breathing, but just slowing down his breathing, and also how he can be more grounded. So he was focusing on these 5 senses that are outside of him, around him, so he can feel like he is in present moment. Of course, this is something he had to do on a regular basis, little by little. So it's not like all day, every day, or just saving these strategies until he feels really bad. No, that's not going to work out either, right? So he needed to start practicing these strategies on a regular basis. Little by little, like little as like 5 minutes a day. And at the same time, Ethan learned how to slowly incorporate this chunking down any tasks and simplifying his academic demands rather than just going go, 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 go and feeling frustrated and then crashing and burning. So he learned how to adjust that. Even though in the beginning, remember, Ethan was a straight A student, he felt very anxious about slowing down because he felt he was going to be even more behind. So we had to talk about doing the right thing with the right mindset, right? So with the right skills and strategies, he has learned how to chunk down any tasks and simplifying so that he was able to take care of the small tasks. So in the beginning, it was important for Ethan to regain his confidence, which comes into this right mindset, rather than just keep going, because that wasn't working. And so at the same time, he was super frustrated, right? But then he kept practicing it with the right mindset, that he knew he was making progress, even though it was a baby step. So he had to constantly use this doing the right thing with the right mindset, right? And with the right approach, guess what? The fog started to lift. And again, it's not going to be super quick one and done, thing that he really needed to learn from the ground out approach, but over time he was able to clear up his brain fog. Now, what can you do then based on this information? So here's a resource. Do not expect your team to jump back to full speed overnight. That's just not going to happen. So just forget that expectation that is unrealistic, but have a realistic expectations, which is exactly this. Number one, as a parent, you've got to focus on celebrating small wins, okay? Like reading for 10 minutes or doing a chore or doing this one task that your team can do. So you really focus on what is working and how you can make things work instead of what is not working. See, this is part of the right mindset that I teach in my online program, Teen FND Academy. And building breaks. This is really important. I talk about pacing a lot in this channel, which is taking a mini brain break before your teen feels like needing to take one. So usually we take a break when we feel like we need to. With FND and especially brain fog, by then it's too late. It's almost like the brain energy is so drained to the point of like a red zone, like 10%, kind of thing. And then to get from 10% to 30% or maybe 80%, it takes some time. However, if your teen continues to recharge himself or herself at 80% every 5 minutes or so, then all it takes is like a little bit of mini breaks, and then the endurance goes up over time. Of course, it's not like, oh yeah, 1 minute break was all we need it. It's not like that, but you can absolutely start building that pacing while practicing the autonomic nervous system strategy, regulation strategies, and the right mindset, right? That it's not overnight thing. It's not one and done. It's a consistent and regular practice that will make change. And then more importantly, in my mind, parents, you help your teen reconnect with anything that is joyful and then some sort of physical gentle movement. Because again, you want to have some sort of movement. Generally, like cardio is a good place to start to get more oxygen and blood kind of floating in the brain and the body. So that is going to help sort of cleanse the gunk out of the system, if that makes sense. So this is where, right, hydrating, resting, sleep, all those things are going to help get the gunk out of the system. However, your teen does not need to be bed rest all the time because that is not really productive either. So again, just to recap, you focusing on the right mindset by celebrating small wins, even though if it's just super small thing that was super easy for your child when your child was functioning at full capacity. And number two, knowing that there is no overnight success, right? Or clearing up the brain fog. And number three, your child is going to practice this autonomic nervous system regulation strategies while chunking down the practice so that at least they're learning how to celebrate their own wins, right? To increase the confidence level. And then taking a lot of breaks, right? The pacing, not like when they need to. Usually it's based on the time or the segment. So that would be one thing you can do. And reconnect with joyful movement activities or anything that is fun, because that would be helpful for them to get into this middle zone of the autonomic nervous system, and that would help them clear out the brain fog. And remember, this isn't forever. Their brain, because they're still developing, can bounce back. I've seen it one too many times. I am 100% convinced that brain fog can be done. So if your teen is struggling with brain fog and you're not getting any answers, let's work together. First of all, show this video to your doctor and then ask about, is this part of FND, right? If it's not, great, but you can still use the same strategy. If your child indeed has FND as a diagnosis and then brain fog happens to be one of the symptoms, then you might want to check out my program, Teen FND Academy, and then see if you qualify for the program. The link is down below, and let me know what kind of questions do you have about brain fog. And I am happy to answer because I read everyone's comment every single time. Now, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next video.